How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
My fellow Americans, it is Eric Erickson here, and I am delighted to have you with me. The phone number, if you would like to be on the program, is 877-973-7425. I'm not going to say that. Just a unique phenomenon. Let's move on. I got to go back to the story. I've already talked about it 2 days in a row, and part of me thinks, man, I'm getting tired of the topic. You guys probably are getting tired of the topic, but it's such a big topic. We've got to discuss it because of a story in the New York Times today, and I'm actually kind of surprised that of all places, the New York Times would cover it in the way they have. And that is the situation with Israel and the very tough decisions that it's going to have to figure out how to go forward. They've got an essay, Rural Garrick, Ray Takea, who are writing in the New York Times why Israel is worried about Iran's nuclear ambitions. All right, you need to hear part of this before I dive in, but it's let me just read you part of the beginning and then the end. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, learned the limits of his foreign policy strategy this week. Even well-armed and well-trained surrogate forces can prove unreliable if a determined modern army disables them. After the death of Hassan Nasrallah and many of the other members of the upper echelons of the Lebanese Hezbollah, the clerical regime's thwarted ballistic missile attack on Iran on Tuesday was an attempt to diminish the humiliation that Tehran has felt after Israel rapidly deconstructed Iran's most cherished protege. With Hezbollah as a model and partner, Tehran had perfected Islamic imperialism on the cheap. Proxies spread the faith and mauled Iran's enemies while shielding it from direct retaliation. But as the Israeli offensive in Gaza and Lebanon have revealed, an aspiring regional hegemon with limited conventional capacity needs more firepower and deterrence than proxies alone can deliver. Israel must have already destroyed much of Hezbollah's most dangerous missiles, launchers and missile crews, and given the two-time failure of Iran to overwhelm the Jewish state's air defenses, the regime's huge investment in ballistic and cruise missiles has also proven suddenly wanting. Where then might Ayatollah Khamenei turn next? Despite the supreme leader's stated religious objections to nuclear weapons, Iran has been steadily making progress on its nuclear weapons capabilities for the past years. It is now, according to the U.S. government, down to a 1 to 2 week breakout time to produce enough uranium for one atomic bomb, though it could take it several months to field a nuclear weapon. With its proxy fighters under siege and its conventional weapons proving insufficient, Tehran may be closer than ever to crossing the threshold and building nuclear weapons. Iran's missile barrages could provoke Netanyahu to risk a strike aimed at its nuclear facilities and deny Tehran the only weapon that could guarantee its freedom to maneuver. If, of course, Israel does that, it could provoke a war. This is the end of the piece. If in the not-too-distant future the clerical regime can test a nuclear weapon, then it will overnight diminish any power that Israel and the United States have in the region. The United States has never attacked a nuclear-armed state. It's a good guess that Israel, which is widely believed to have nuclear weapons, though it has not declared them, will not attack a nuclear-armed state. And the long-held nuclear doctrine of mutually assured destruction would almost certainly restrict Israel more than Iran. Iran has already demonstrated a willingness to attack a nuclear-armed Israel. Tehran has deadly proxies, and Israel has none. Becoming a nuclear state could offer a way for Ayatollah Khamenei to promote Iran's power at home and abroad while neutralizing the possibility that his decision to attack Israel again this week would lead to a conventional escalation in which Iran can't compete. Authoritarian states are acutely dependent on the awe they project. Foreign defeats inevitably have repercussions at home. In other words, Israel may have to risk a regional war with Iran, conventionally, not through proxies or in the shadow, in order to stop Iran's nuclear program. Because if Iran gets a nuclear program, as I mentioned yesterday, it's going to go back to funding proxies and daring Israel to try to take on Iran itself. And if Iran decides to take on those proxies too aggressively, or if Israel decides to take on those proxies too aggressively, then Iran might decide to respond with a nuke. So the question is, does Israel risk a regional war with Iran in order to stop its nuclear capabilities? And I think the answer is they've got to. Because the greater danger is the nuke. Now, we saw Iran launch 200 missiles at Israel, and Israel, the United States, and allies could stop almost all of them. What if Iran launched 1,000 missiles? There'd be a whole lot of damage in Israel and probably would be deaths. But if Iran launched a nuke at Israel, there would be many more deaths over a longer period of time as a radiation cloud spread. It seems to me the calculus at this point is you've got to take out the nuclear facilities. You got to take out the nuclear facilities. And also Karg Island. If you go to a map, I'm not suggesting if you're in your car you do that. But if you go to a map and you zoom in on Iran, there's an island in the northern end of the Persian Gulf, almost straight across from Kuwait City, north of Bushehr, Iran, and it's called Karg Island. Karg Island is where 98% of Iran's oil is loaded into ships and sent out. In fact, if you have a satellite map of it and you zoom into the satellite map on Karg Island, almost the entire island is the big oil drums to save the oil in, and a runway with military operations. There's a little bit of a desert city there, but almost every single person on that island works for the oil industry of Iran to put the oil into ships and ship it out around the world. 98% of Iran's oil ships through Karg Island. You blow up Karg Island, you've limited Iran's ability to ship oil. You blow up Karg Island, you immediately skyrocket global oil prices right before an American presidential election. Guess what Joe Biden does not want Israel to do? Yeah, right. They don't want them touching Karg Island because they're afraid that an oil spike will help Donald Trump. An external factor. You know, I've said this before, and not to be a prophet, because a prophet is unwelcome in his own hometown. But I've told you before that events change things, and all the events headed into this presidential election favor Donald Trump because people's views of Donald Trump are hard. People's views of Kamala Harris are soft. And all of the events that can go right now largely favor Donald Trump because the economy, the odds of it getting better before the election are slim to none, but the odds of it getting worse actually are more. Middle Eastern war and a spike in oil prices hurts our economy, pushes it closer to recession. That does not help Kamala Harris. If anything, the history of Joe Biden as well is that he's been wrong on everything. Joe Biden did not want to go after Osama bin Laden. Joe Biden did not want to stay in Afghanistan. Joe Biden has time and time again not wanted Israel to respond to Iran. Joe Biden did not want Israel to respond aggressively after October 7th. It's wild to me that on Monday we will be 1 year from the Hamas attack on Israel, and there are still hostages held by Hamas, including children. Joe Biden's been wrong about everything for 50 years. That's not me. That's Bob Gates. That's Barack Obama's defense secretary. That's his quote, that Joe Biden has been wrong about every major foreign policy decision for the last 50 years. And Joe Biden right now, when confronted with this dilemma of Iran on the verge of nuclear weapons, again, it's the Biden administration that says Iran is within weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, of being able to acquire the nuclear material needed to make a nuclear weapon. And Joe Biden's response to Israel is, no, don't go stop that. Why? Because Joe Biden is from that weird, perverse world of progressive foreign policy experts who believe if every nation on earth has a nuke, we'll all be safe, because who among us would want to take on a nuclear power? So give every country nukes. Joe Biden perversely thinks this. Joe Biden's in that camp. If Israel has nukes and Iran has nukes, there'll be peace, except what Joe Biden can't do, because I know the media loves to talk about Joe Biden's Catholicism, but Joe Biden's Catholicism is as real as the Easter Bunny. Joe Biden, or Saturday Night Live portrays Kamala Harris saying, Joe Biden believes a lot of things that simply are not true. And what Joe Biden, because of his weak faith, cannot understand is people of strong faith. Joe Biden is fine suing nuns to force them to pay for abortions because Joe Biden's not as committed to his faith as they are. And he believes he's committed to his. This is something you got to understand here. This is a very important point. When you are weak in faith but have convinced yourself you have strong faith, then you believe that people who do have strong faith, that it's no stronger than yours. And if yours is malleable and yet you think it's strong, then you believe that their faith is malleable too, until you run into little sisters of the poor who fight you all the way to the Supreme Court over funding abortion. And so Joe Biden looks at Iran and its fundamentalist leaders who wish to bring about the apocalypse as a core part of their theological underpinning. It says they don't really believe it. I don't believe this whole Jesus stuff. How can they believe the whole Mahdi stuff? It's an arrogance, the progressive mentality. You cannot understand people who truly believe because you don't. And progressives actually lack empathy while claiming great empathy. They can't walk in another man's shoes. The Iranians are of Shiite Muslim origin, and the religious leader is in charge of that country as a theocracy. And they believe God has put all of the Jews in Israel to make it easy for the Muslims to wipe them out in one fell swoop and bring about the Mahdi. That's how they interpret it. And that interpretation was embraced by Hassan Nasrallah and the man who put him there, the Ayatollah Khomeini, who led the Iranian Revolution. And his successor is Ali Khamenei, who also believes it, who has not wanted nuclear weapons, but may be pushed to have them now because his proxies are decimated. And the only way to stop him from doing it is to bomb him and possibly risk a full war. And Joe Biden thinks these people aren't true believers. I'm not a true believer. They can't be true believers. They've got to be rational people. The rational, weak believer always presumes everyone else is the same. And that's part of Joe Biden's problem for 50 years, is he believes he's the smartest man in the room. No one can be smarter than him. And so if he believes something, everyone else must believe it because he's so smart. And that's why Joe Biden is one of the dumbest people to ever be president of the United States. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be a part of the program, we've got more to discuss. I got to talk more about the Doug Emhoff stuff, though. My buddy Casey Maddox, who works for Americans for Prosperity, pointed this out yesterday, that he doesn't know whether Doug Emhoff actually hit that woman or not. And he hopes he didn't. But Kamala Harris didn't care whether Brett Kavanaugh was an abuser or not, and she sought to wield the accusation against him as a cudgel. And she would have known whether or not it was true about Doug Emhoff. And it appears to be true. This is a man the left has used to redefine masculinity in some weak, immoral way. He had an affair with the nanny and got her pregnant, led to a divorce, paid for an abortion, and has hit another woman that he was dating. And the left wants to hail him as a paragon of virtue. So I guess the Me Too movement really was all BS, huh? It really was all BS. They really didn't mean it. It was just the bad kind of men they wanted to get rid of. But the good kind of men, the politically powerful men, they were okay with that. I mean, the Democrats have allowed Bill Clinton back on the stage at the Democratic National Convention. They sure are enjoying having him with them again. But yeah, we'll wield these accusations against a guy like Brett Kavanaugh, but the media will ignore Doug Emhoff. You know, and I know, if it was a Republican spouse, they would go all in, and it wouldn't be that the guy's not running for office, hands off. No. They would go all after the guy. But because he's Kamala Harris's husband, they will try to avoid it, just as they tried to avoid the Hunter Biden laptop story. Mention my buddy Casey from Americans for Prosperity. Let me tell you about AFP. They're the largest and leading grassroots advocacy group in the country, and they happen to be on our side, and they're great at it. They can train you to be an activist. I've had a number of you say, how do I do the door-to-door stuff? Well, Americans for Prosperity can train you. What about you want to actually have the facts to make the case to your local elected officials about why school choice would be a good thing, or charter school would be a good thing, or how free market reforms would be great for families and small businesses? Well, they'll train you. All you have to do is go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer today and sign up. They've got chapters in almost every state. And if there's not one in your state, maybe you can help them set one up. You'll become a great activist. You'll become the most informed person in your circle of friends. They'll give you all the news you need to know to stay informed, and the solutions to deploy common sense conservative solutions around the country to fix the problems that ail us. All you have to do is go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer today. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Go sign up with them today. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson. I am delighted to have you. Oh, my goodness. I, by the way, am I've been sending money to different people, some of whom I don't even know, who are doing relief supplies in Georgia and the Carolinas. A friend, his parents live, and let me pull up the map just so I have a better sense of it, because he was describing it to me. So his parents live, where must this be? They live in a little town. Is it Damascus, Virginia? And it is right on the line, basically, of Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina, or maybe it's White Stop. White Stop is where they live. And so they've been badly. It's just south of Balsam Mountain, if you want a sense of it, and the whole area has been battered by the hurricane. And his parents have they've handed over their generator to one family. They've let somebody else take their tractor. They are going to making runs to Costco and buying diapers and supplies for the local area. And just, I mean, they're driving a great distance to round up supplies themselves, and these are not young people. And so I'm been Venmoing that family money, and just there's the level of devastation up there, and it's just local people stepping up together. I want you to know something though. I'm going back to the story very deliberately because there's somebody, I'm not going to mention this person, is 203,000 followers on Twitter. And he claims that the government had a meeting in Chimney Rock, North Carolina. And the government told the people of Chimney Rock, North Carolina, cut off from their surroundings. If you haven't seen the devastation in Chimney Rock, it is a disaster. The government has told the people there that they're not picking up the bodies. They're going to leave the bodies. They do not want body bags because if they have body bags, there'll be a count of the death toll. They don't want to identify the bodies, so they're just leaving them to rot in the streets. In fact, let me read you this. Our friend owns an Airbnb in Chimney Rock. They had a town meeting yesterday, and someone from the federal government told them all of those things in the town meeting, but doesn't want the information getting out. That's one of your big red flags there. Also, they're not picking up the bodies. The stench of the bodies everywhere is insane, and for some reason, the government does not want to pick up the bodies. One pastor of a local church was going to order door delivering water, and they changed their delivery request to body bags because so many of the homes that they've gone to have needed body bags. We're trying to keep the body count. They're not picking up the bodies. They don't want to identify the bodies. They're just leaving them to rot in the streets. And here's another one. I can't post this online because it's not quite public yet, but government officials had a town meeting with all the residents of Chimney Rock and basically told them the town was being bulldozed, bodies and all. The land will be seized by the federal government. They would not be able to move back, and basically their homes, the ones they're standing on, will no longer be theirs. The federal government owned it all. I don't know what crazy play for land this is, but there's a lot of conspiracy about the lithium mines, and let me just tell you, as someone who lives in Charlotte and has friends who live in the area of Western North Carolina, they are not being helped, and this is actually being stand-down operation by the federal government. Something evil is going on in the North Carolina mountains. I just didn't want to be identified. Just today, we filled up a trailer for a shelter in Hendersonville, North Carolina that had no food for tons of moms and babies. All the stores around are empty or locked. In Chandler, North Carolina, people haven't eaten anything or drunk in 6 days, and they're sending SOS messages. I'm trying to tag the occasion. People are dying by the minute. This is somebody's put this on social media. I happen to have a friend who lives in Chimney Rock, North Carolina. He tells me it is a disaster, that it is an absolute, unmitigated disaster. The road is washed away. There is debris everywhere. There are people dead and dying. Lake Lure is filled with the debris of homes that blew off or were washed off the mountains. And it is simply not true that the government has done this. It is simply not true that the government has come into Chimney Rock and said, we're just leaving the bodies in the streets, we're burying the whole town. It's simply not true. But a man with 203,000 Twitter followers has now gotten 2.2 million views on this post that he put up last night. And a friend of mine who retired to North Carolina, and ironically retired to North Carolina because the healthcare exchanges in Georgia, but he says, this isn't true. He says, we've lost a lot. Their house is one of the few damaged but standing, trees everywhere. He had to respond to me because I wanted to check in on him and didn't hear from him. I was really afraid that something bad had happened to him. And said even the cell phone towers are gone, that he's had to get somewhere. I said, this is not true. But this guy has over 200,000 Twitter followers and has put this on social media, and it's simply a lie. This isn't misinformation, you see. This is actually like not true. Like Tim Walz saying he's friends with school shooters when he meant he was actually friends with the victims of school shooters. That's misspeaking. Tim Walz saying he was in China when he wasn't, that's a lie. Putting online that, well, this friend who doesn't actually live there but has an Airbnb there and talk to people supposedly there. Now, a friend of mine I talked to couldn't call me because even the cell towers were down and happened to have had to go to find supplies and got to he said he was on the side of the road responding to me, says this isn't true. He lives there. There was no town meeting where they said they were bulldozing the town and taking the land. And by the way, just think about this for a minute. I know this is hard, but think about this for a minute. We have a constitution. The government cannot take your home without compensating you. They can't just take your land. So you can say, all right, Erickson, well, they're bulldozing the land. They're going to give people a little bit of money. No. They're lawsuits. Y'all, this was actually an area of law I specialized in. Eminent domain law was something I did as a lawyer because I worked at the time for the law firm that handled the accounts for the Department of Transportation when they were building highways. And it's a long, protracted affair. You can get the land immediately, but you got to file a condemnation order. One, there's not a courthouse available right now to file the condemnation order, so you can't get the land. But two, once you do, then they can sue you and argue for years over fair market value. It's not happening. It's simply not happening. And yet people want to believe it because there's already distrust from the government, so they're seeding the distrust. It's wild to see the maliciousness and the number of people willing to lie. And let me explain to you what's happening. When you put up these long threads on social media now, on Twitter, you get paid. I make money on social media. I went on and flipped on the monetization switch. It's not a ton of money. But if I put up a big tweet and it gets a lot of interaction, there's embedded ads. People scroll through, they see the comments, they see the ads. Twitter shares some of that money with me now. That's what people are doing. You get these millions of views of these long form tweets that people have to click through. You're making money. So you're seeding misinformation, disinformation. You're lying. And you're making money. Maybe this person actually heard this stuff, but it's not true. And instead of thinking maybe this is too good to be true, well, my gosh, let me put this on Twitter. The whole story, the lithium mine stuff is just complete BS. But people want to believe it. And I can tell you right now, there are people listening to me right now saying, Erickson, why don't you believe it? You can't believe the government. You can't believe FEMA. They're lying to you. And the devil asked Eve, did God really say? There are people who wish to believe the lie, not the truth, and you can't help them. There is and again, again, this is an important point. This goes back to the beginning of the show. The class of people in this country with the greatest mental health issues are progressive women, white progressive women. And then after them is white progressive men. You know, the fastest growing group of people with mental health concerns in the country, though, is white conservatives who aren't in church. White conservative men and women not in church. They've made politics their religion. There are an increasing number of people who are in despair and having mental health issues. I got to tell you, when you live your entire life believing the worst about other people and jumping to the worst possible conclusions about everyone around you, that is not healthy for you. It's not mentally well. And you can't be dissuaded from it. You listen to someone like me, you're like, oh, you fool, you're the person who's getting taken advantage of. No, actually, you idiot, you're the one being taken advantage of. People seed you the disinformation. They are preying on your fears and your existing distrust to make you distrust more, to lure you to them. And then at some point, they're going to make you a pitch and you're going to invest in their scheme and you're going to lose all your money. You're being preyed upon and don't even realize it. The people most grounded to truth are the ones who are doing the best. And what is truth? Well, Jesus. But beyond the theological issue here, the people who go to church regularly and are engaged in a church community are the ones least likely to get scams. They're the happiest. They live the longest. Maybe there's something about being part of a church community, not a political community. The conservatives who've decided, I don't really have to go to church on Sunday and I can still be a Christian, I'm going to go to the political rally instead. Well, pretty soon their God becomes Trump or government or something, and they are so easily duped and manipulated, and they hate everyone, and they're just as angry as the progressive women out there. I see it online. I got some of these people come after me all the time, and all they can do is yell at me about politics, and I'm not my insufficient loyalty to Donald Trump, and on and on and on and on. Like, you people have violated the first commandment. You're worshiping idols. You've got other gods before you, and they're all political. And your idols are going to be smashed at some point. But in the meantime, how much are you going to hurt yourself and those around you? Truth does matter. And in times of crisis, you should note the people trying to manipulate your fears and capitalize on your distrust of government. And to go completely full circle to the beginning of the program, the government has brought a lot of this on itself because it has lost the trust of the people and is too arrogant to understand that it's not the people who sowed the distrust who are the problems. Those people just capitalized on your existing breach of trust, because so much of government has been weaponized against classes of people in this country. People realize they can't trust it, and the bureaucrats themselves are blithering idiots who, by virtue of being a bureaucrat, think they know everything, and they don't. Thinking themselves wise, they've been made fools. Now, I want you to be wise enough to go to Vision Computers for your tech support needs. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Tell them I sent you. You'll save even more money. Or go to visioncomputers.com. Vision Computers can build you a computer. You're going to save money, and you're going to get a better system that actually meets your needs and wants than you'll get at the one-size-fits-all big box store. And then you get their tech support, their 5-star tech support for free. So you get a special number. You call them whenever you have a problem. They answer the phone in 15 seconds or less. And you've lost a file, they find the file. You don't know how to set up email, they set up email. Your printer's not working, they get it fixed. They work with you over the phone. All those things. And then they can even remote in and take care of your computer if there's a problem. You call them at 404-COMPUTE, you get that. Now let's say, hey, I want that 5-star tech support, but I don't have a computer from Vision. I went to the one-size-fits-all big box store or got one online, and I don't have tech support that's reliable. What can I do? Well, $179 a year. Not a month, not a day, not a week, a year, $179 a year. They will give you their tech support. It's incredible. You get that number, you call them 15 seconds or less, you get the answer faster than a Google search. All you do is call them at 404-COMPUTE. By the way, if you mention my name, you'll save even more money. So call them at 404-COMPUTE. Let's talk to you right here, real quick. Independent contractor. You work out of your house. You don't have an office. You're in the gig economy. You need a reliable computer, and you need IT support, and you can't afford an in-house IT guy. That's where Vision comes in, $179 a year. They can take it over for you. 404-COMPUTE. Call them, tell them I sent you. It'll save you a lot of downtime. They'll keep you online. Greetings, conversationalists. Glad to be with you. Just one more time today, if you text the word donate to 33777, send you back the link to the Salvation Army's Hurricane Helene portal. They are doing a lot of work. And, the Samaritan's Purses, even the Red Cross, the North American Mission Board for the Southern Baptist Convention was first on site as usual. It really is remarkable. I grew up Southern Baptist. I go to a PCA Presbyterian church now. It is remarkable how the Southern Baptists are always the first on the scene. They show up. I mean, it's like they must start driving in the storm to get to the disaster area. My brothers and sisters of the Southern Baptist Convention, you should be proud of yourselves for your relief efforts. In fact, on my way home from Atlanta on Tuesday, I was behind a giant van from the Kentucky Baptist Convention headed to Florida with supplies. Into South Georgia. They're everywhere. These Baptists are everywhere, helping everybody. It's just for all the scandal that people talk about with the Southern Baptists, for all the talk about the problems in the Southern Baptist Convention. The Southern Baptist Convention is showing up as the storm is subsiding. The first there with the chainsaws, with the hammers and nails, with the bulldozers and the tractors, with the bottles of water and the diapers, every single time. They're there before the Salvation Army. They're there before the Red Cross. They're there before FEMA. They're there before the Army. They're there before Walmart. Walmart typically shows up right after the Southern Baptists, probably because they're all Southern Baptists at Walmart. Nonetheless, I got to give a huge commendation and praise to the Southern Baptist Convention. You get there on the ground while it's still raining and the wind is still blowing and begin the recovery effort and the relief effort before anybody else. And it's happened time and time and time again. And I want you to know I have noticed and I appreciate it. And thank you very much, Southern Baptist Convention, for being there. And all you Southern Baptists who sometimes hear everybody say bad things about you, you need to understand you are the boots on the ground of recovery before anybody else. So take some pride in that. Not sinful pride, just be proud. You guys do great work. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of the day.